So it turns out I was wrong about the aura swapping. You can actually do it between two weapon sets. In my last video I talked about how to swap with curses to have a temporal chain setup. This is going to talk about how to have a more damage setup. So you could kind of do whatever you want with it. I'm trying it out with a staff right now, and I'll go over how that looks. So barrier invocation, it's set to both weapon sets. I don't recommend unchecking one of these because it gets weird. You can now cast it in each setup. So it's not going to swap between the weapon sets, it'll just use whatever it's on. And these auras I have set up a little different. So Arctic Armor and Grim Feast and Blink are set up on 1. Now I can use all of these. It's a lot better for mapping, but doesn't do much during bosses. So if I wanted to, instead of using curses, use Elemental Conflux, I switch to weapon 2. You see it's active now. Blink, Arctic Armor, and Grim Feast are not active. If I had 10 more spirit, which I definitely would want to get before doing this, I could put Blink on too. So that one I have Elemental Conflux and Blink active. It's probably overkill. These windows can be adjusted by skill duration, but a lot of builds are killing bosses, before these really go off. But it's kind of neat. So you can put more skill duration or less skill duration, and it will either stay in longer or go through faster depending on what you have in there. I wanted to go over how I set up the skill tree specifically. I was going to talk through each point, but I burned through like all my gold trying to figure out how to do this, and I had to set it up beforehand. So what we can see, the skill tree is different. I've taken out Whispers of Doom. I have unassigned all these weapon skill set points. So everything I assigned before is now not assigned to a specific set. It goes to the general tree and is active at all times. I've left out 2 points because I need to show you how the energy gain requirements are different. So we wanted the same energy gain before to cast barrier invocation. In this setup, I'm taking too much damage because my fire resistance is low. So I need to assign my last 2 weapon skill points. So I'm putting +1 here and +1 here. So I'm back up to 85. Barrier invocation is still cycling through, and I'm not taking as much damage. I took a lot there, but that'll be active on weapon set 1. So now we go to weapon set 2. My energy gain isn't quite enough. So I've had to assign these last 2 skill points back over to energy gain increase. So you're gonna get hurt more if you're doing it like this. You've taken out 2 maximum fire resistance. You're down to 83. Since I'm using a staff, trying it out, I think a double focus setup would be better, a lot better actually. So now if I'm running like an elemental weakness map, you just can't play this build, you're going to drop too low. But you can see the energy gain cycle is enough. So this one's looking a little weird. This staff is probably not the best choice. We can see with the pact, it's kind of going off twice because my maximum mana isn't high enough. So it's, I wanted to just try this staff out. I actually paid like 20 exalts for it because I thought it would be good. But it turns out the mana isn't high enough, and I'm getting those, bad moments where I'm setting this off twice. So what you should try to do, gonna get a little more expensive, is find a really high base energy shield. It doesn't need to have, if you're gonna want the most damage, it needs to have like similar stats. Otherwise, you're just kind of losing damage when you swap. So you would need 2 of very similar setups to do that. You wouldn't have to play around as much with energy. So I don't think I would use a staff like this unless your Infernal Flame is about 100, 200 higher, because now the more you're casting these comets, you're kind of just hitting yourself too much. But that's how you would set something like this up. I just don't have the items to really show you how it could work. But you could do this with any other auras. You know, your same thing. You could use it on any variant of builds, I think. But yeah, it's just something to try out. It doesn't look like it's going to be very good compared to a curse swap, but if you had the right items and you wanted to play around with it, I think it's still a pretty good choice. So there you go.